them to go back to life as actual human beings instead of monks. I've never taken anything so seriously in my life, and I've never been so proud of anything that I've ever done, because I've always felt like I was a failure, and now we've done something as a band of friends that I'm 100% proud of.
Blood Sugar Sex Magik was the album that put the Chili Peppers on the map in the early 90s, and I think the sound of this album specifically as a whole is why I think it's such an iconic album from the 90s. And I think with everything going on with the grunge scene in the 90s as well, it was nice to have something that was a little more alternative or funk rock based that still did well and was very mainstream. But as I grew as a guitar player and became more of a John Frusciante fan, I realized how much his sound on Blood Sugar Sex Magik differentiated from albums like Californication, By the Way, Stadium Arcadium, and even Mother's Milk before Blood Sugar Sex Magik. Blood Sugar is a lot of people's favorite album, and as a guitar player, I can see why a lot of guitar players would like John's playing and his tone and his style in general more towards 2007, just because there's so many effects and there's a lot of like tricks going on with the mixing and the panning and all this kind of stuff. But the one thing that made me fall in love with the Blood Sugar Sex Magik tone, it's the simplicity behind it. There's a few things that I want to touch on, and I don't want to make this video too long, but I think there's some things that John does now that he didn't do back then, and I think that separates the eras drastically and gives each of them their own unique sound. I'll put some photos up on the screen, but you can see the pedal board differences between 1991 and 2007 and how different they look, and the amount of pedals John had in 2007 versus 1991. So what I want to provide in this video and what I want to give is how to get the Blood Sugar Sex Magik tone in a ballpark estimate. I know it's not going to be exactly the way John sounds on that album. It's almost impossible to do that. And so I wanted to talk about it, and also how you can do it on a budget, because it also is not realistic to have a Silver Jubilee, a Marshall Major, all vintage, plus all the pedals he has, and all of his vintage guitars. So there's a few main things I want to talk about throughout this video, and the first thing is the lack of reverb on the guitar. It's extremely dry. The second one is his use of chorus and other effects, and which ones he's using on certain songs. And the third one is his use of compression. So I want to talk about those three main things, and then I'll touch a little bit on his playing style as well from that era, and how you can mash all three of those things plus the playing style and get around that ballpark estimate of the Blood Sugar Sex Magik tone. Okay, so let's jump right into the first thing. The first thing that I mentioned was his lack of reverb and how dry his signal is. So if you listen to a lot of isolated tracks from the Stadium Arcadium or By the Way era, you'll notice that there's a lot of reverb, especially panned right or panned left. If you go back and look at his Blood Sugar Sex Magik era pedal board, you'll see that there is the CE1 going left and right, but you'll notice on his board that there's A, no reverb, and B, no delay. So to my knowledge, and from what I've heard on the isolated tracks of Blood Sugar, there's like almost no reverb. There might be some like room reverb from the miking and stuff like that, but it's just completely dry. So I'm gonna play some riffs with and without reverb, and you'll see the difference in how much punch it gives the riffs when he's playing them. So when you're using a reverb pedal, you're creating a lot of space and room with your tone, where if you don't, you kind of get a very direct and punchy signal, which that's one tip that I can give to get a little closer to the Blood Sugar tone, is limit your use of reverb and delay. Okay, so the second tip I want to give is basically just running through my chain and what pedals I use for it. Again, I'll put a picture of John's pedal board up from that era anyways, but I want to dive a little bit into how he's using each of those pedals. So the first effect I want to talk about is how much chorus he uses on this album. And while I go through the track list on this album, you can see that he uses chorus on Suck My Kiss, he uses chorus on Give It Away, he uses it on Under the Bridge. There's a lot of songs here where he's using that effect, especially Soul to Squeeze. I know it's not on this album, but he's using it for that song as well from that era. He was using the CE1 back then, but during the recording, from my understanding, it was broken. And so for the chorus sound, he used a DOD chorus. I don't have one of those. I actually use a flanger pedal set to give me a chorus sound. So I'll play some of the riffs with and without chorus and you can hear the difference. So just with those two riffs, you can hear the difference in how much it kind of gives the tone an oomph. So even there, you can really hear the difference between having the chorus on and not having the chorus on. So John used a lot of distortion on the album as well, as he always does with the Chili Peppers. He uses different types of overdrive and distortions, like you can hear the difference between the solo on Blood Sugar Sex Magik, the title track, and then you compare it to I Could Have Lied, where he has just a cranked practice amp that gives him a little bit of that broken up signal. But I'll play some licks and some parts from the album with some distortion. That way you can kind of dial in the tone from what you're hearing. I still have the tone and the distortion all the way up on my DS2, but the level control is what I've dialed back because it's not as like in your face. I know he didn't use an SD1 back then, but for songs like Suck My Kiss, even I Could Have Lied, what I do is I turn the level up all the way and I just keep the drive a little bit lower, closer towards like 9 or 8 o'clock. So I kind of just crank the level on the SD1 and turn the drive down a little bit. And that's what you heard when I was playing Suck My Kiss. I'll play a few riffs and you can hear it. It still sounds like it's cranked, obviously, and it's really distorted, but it's not as distorted as his tone is later on in 2003, 2004, and whatnot. But the two pedals I recommend getting if you're after the distortion tone of this album is the DS2 and the DS1. The use of his wah is also super important, and it's a staple for him, especially on the entirety of the title track, Blood Sugar Sex Magik. He has the wah on for the entire song, and then also for If You Have to Ask, he's got it for the solo. So I'm just going to play Blood Sugar Sex Magik and show you what it sounds like. So he's not like wahing like crazy, it's just kind of leaning it up and down right in the middle, just to give that like turned on sound effect. If you have a wah, you'll know what I mean. But that's definitely super important as well. So the last main tip I want to touch on is his use of compression. You can see in the recent years of the Unlimited Love Tour and the Return of the Dream Canteen Tour that he's had a Dynacop on his board, and what that pedal is emulating is the compression that was going on back then. So you can see him kicking it on during Under the Bridge intro. You can obviously search up what compression does if you're not sure, but it basically tightens up your signal. So for you to hear it, I'm going to play some riffs, and I'm going to be turning the compression on and off so you can hear it. So just with those two things, you can really hear how compressed the signal is. You can even hear it on the outro of Sir Psycho Sexy. I'm going to put the chorus on for it as well. But you'll notice how compressed it is, and when you add the chorus, it gives it a little bit of grit. So you'll hear the difference a lot there when I turn the compression off. Like things are less snappy and it's just not as punchy. But those are the three main things I want to talk about. Obviously your playing is a big factor and I'll also touch on that. John is playing very Hendrixy on this album. And if you notice when they're recording in the Funky Monks documentary, his right hand is super snappy. And I actually gave a lesson to a student the other day. He actually reached out to me through YouTube. So if you are looking to do one-on-one sessions and stuff like that, whether it's John or other Jimi Hendrix kind of style stuff, you can shoot me a DM on Instagram. I'll have it on the screen here. He was trying to get that soul squeeze kind of sound. What he was doing is kind of strumming with his whole arm. And the main tip that I want to give is John doesn't really strum with his entire arm unless he's really like going at it, which he isn't on this song and during this album. He's using a lot of his wrist. It's kind of like snapping. You'll see what I mean when I play Soul to Squeeze here. So you'll see what I mean there. It's very snappy and very aggressive, and that's also how he gets the tone for the I Could Have Lied solo. It wasn't perfect, but you get the idea on how he's very hard with his right hand and his attack is just very strong. And that's what gives you that punchy sound. And I also forgot to mention, the use of a Strat would be helpful to get that single coil sound. But overall, those three tips I gave you for the tone, the compression, reverb, and his effects and pedals that he's using, and a right hand that's super intense and has just a heavy attack, pretty much get you there. And if you just stick on that and practice it, you'll definitely get in the ballpark. It's gonna take a bit of time because my pedals aren't exactly like yours, and your pedals aren't exactly like mine, or your amp isn't exactly like mine. So you need to tweak to your own preference. But I think this gets pretty close and you can be the judge of it, obviously. You can let me know your thoughts down in the comments. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like I said earlier, you can also DM me if you have any questions or if you want to do one-on-one things. I also have that available now. So shoot me a DM and we can go from there. So thank you for watching and I'll see you in the next video.